Hey, Karen, how are you? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, so we're just waiting for some people to come in. I know it's a little slow load tonight. Hello, Eve, 888 Eva. How are you? Hi, V. Hi, Batty Club. How are you? Thank you for joining my live. Let's see here. Hi, Mohan. Thank you for being here. Good evening. Hi, Elisa and David. How are you doing? Hi, Ernestine and Solomon. How are you doing? Welcome. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. We're just waiting for the moderators so we can get started. Let's see here. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you so much, thank you, Cheyenne. Hi, Cheyenne. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. We're just waiting for the moderators. Let's see here. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Good evening, everybody. And please forgive me, I don't know if there's some connection issues going on. Thank you so much for being here. We're just waiting for my moderators to come in, and I appreciate you guys for being so patient. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. You guys just give us a few minutes. Give us a few minutes. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I think tonight is kind of a lot of people on the channels, so it's a little full tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hello, San Francisco. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Hello from Australia. Hello. Trying to catch all the hello. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, Canada. How are you doing? Thank you for being here. All right, Ernestine. Thank you for being here. All right, so we're just waiting for the moderators, okay? We're just waiting for the moderators to come on, and then we'll get started. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. So give me just a minute. I I know it's a little slow, little slow. We're just waiting for the moderators to come on so we can get started. Thank you guys so much for being here. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. Got a lot of people coming. Hello, Kenya. How are you doing, Kenya? I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much for being here. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know we're starting a little slow. I think it's a little slow. I don't know if it's like really heavy traffic. Thank you guys so much for being here. You know, guys, thank you so much for being here. I'm just waiting for the moderators to come on. As soon as the moderators come on, we'll get started. I know we had a slow start. I apologize for being. Thank you so much, C. Woods. I appreciate you. We're just looking for my moderators. I know I'm a little late coming on. Please forgive me. I was in traffic. Then I had some technical issues with my lighting. And so I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being so patient. Thank you so much for being so patient. Well, while we are waiting, I guess I can go ahead and get started. My name is Dr. Carmen Bryant. I'm the host of Overcoming Narcissist Abuse. You guys also know me from Car Chronicles. I usually come on Sundays. Sometimes I come on during the week. And during the week, I usually make some videos on TikTok. I haven't had the opportunity to do them lately because I've been busy. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys so much for coming and supporting my channel. Tonight, I just wanted to talk about a topic and one of the biggest things that I do, I like to go back because I am retired military. So I like to go back and I like to, what we do in the military, we train. And we train to make it a habit. We train, and sometimes I go back and I talk about the same things over and over again because of the fact that I want you to get it into your mind, get it into your heart, the things that I train and the things that I talk about. And one of the biggest things that I talk about is narcissist abuse cycle. And the topic for tonight is that infinite cycle of narcissist abuse. And one of the biggest things when we're talking about narcissist abuse is the cycle of abuse. And that cycle of abuse, it never stops. Hey, Donna, is it Romano? How are you doing? But one of the biggest things when it comes to narcissist abuse is the narcissist abuse cycle. And let's look at here. You guys don't worry about the people that are on here. You guys just focus. But anyway, one of the biggest things is the narcissist abuse cycle. And the narcissist abuse cycle is an infinite cycle that never ever stops. That cycle never ever stops. And the only way that cycle breaks in any kind of relationship. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, Danielle. I love you. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much, sis. I appreciate you. Because I was trying to focus. I said, well, I know I was on a little late, so please apologize. I apologize to each and every one of you. I was having some technical issues, and I was having some lighting issues, so I was trying to get that done. Thank you, sis. I appreciate you. You're a lifesaver. So I can focus. I know you got all them on there. But once again, when we're talking about that narcissist, when you're dealing with a narcissist, or if you're in a relationship, or I don't call them relationships, those are not real relationships. Those are situationships. And anytime you are in a situationship with a narcissist, the problem is that it is an infinite cycle of narcissist abuse. And the infinite cycle of narcissist abuse never ends. As long as you stay in the situationship or the relationship, that cycle it's always the same thing over and over again. It never ends. It never stops. And most people are running after their first high. You're running after what you received during that idealization phase. And so one thing that I like to do in the military, we like to be repetitious. In the military, we're repetitious and we train over and over again, the same thing over and over again, because of the fact that once we can get you into a habit of doing something, then you'll recognize it, number one, and you do what you have been trained to do. And one of the biggest things when we deal with these situations, and some of you guys may be new to my channel, some of you guys have been with me for a long time, and you notice that there are certain topics I come back and I add to and I talk about over and over again, because one of the biggest things is I got to get you guys to understand that a narcissist abuse cycle never changes. If you decide to stay in these type of situations, they never ever change. They don't change. They'll never change until you get out of. The only way you break a narcissist cycle is once you get out of the cycle. Now, one of the things that I always do is that I always tell you guys, there's a disclaimer. If you have children by a narcissist, hi Vanessa, how are you doing? But if you have children by a narcissist, one of the biggest things, disclaimer, I always say you can't just jump up and take those kids and get out of there. I know you're thinking, but I should be able to. But listen, you got to understand the game of the narcissist. The game of the narcissist is if you take those children, they will put an APB or they'll put an Amber Alert out there. They'll put an Amber Alert out there and then they'll use that against you in the court of law. And so sometimes because of the fact that they have pulled you into this cycle, and then on top of that, they want control over you. They will get you into the courtroom and they'll play in the courtroom. The courtroom becomes a stage where they'll play at. And then they'll make it seem like you are the parent that is dangerous. And so they have already isolated you and already told you lies about what other people think, how other people handle you, or they're trying to break up the relationship. And so one of the biggest things is that people become isolated and afraid to trust people. And that's true. You can't trust everybody. You can't trust, you can't trust everybody. That is true. But one of the biggest things you have to do is you have to reach out and you have to ask for help. And one of the biggest help that you're going to get is from domestic violence advocates. Domestic violence advocates are the ones that will put things and document it and put it on paper so that if you end up having to go to court, a lot of those judges know who the advocates are. And so they already know that when you have an advocate, that stuff that, you have things written on paper, and the things that you have written on paper, that's legal documents, will help you get out of that situation. Even sometimes putting you, well, not sometimes, but if you have to go into a shelter, excuse me, guys, but if you have to go into a shelter, a lot of times when you go into a shelter, it puts you higher on the housing list. It gets you more benefits for you and your children. There are certain doors that will open up to you. But the problem is that, like I say, I give you the disclaimer, and the disclaimer is you can't jump out of the situationship or the relationship if you have children. And on top of that, if you actually have to put things on document and go to court, they can use that against you. And so use your resources and don't let people tell you just get out of it, just leave and run. Don't do that when you have children. You have to be very strategic. They're very strategic. You have to be very, very strategic. Excuse me, guys. I have something in my eye. But you have to be very, very strategic when it comes to leaving. They were strategic when they locked you down. Now you have to be strategic when you get out of this situation. So now let's talk about when we talk about this narcissist abuse cycle. You guys, please excuse me. I have something in my eye and it's irritating my eyeball. So excuse me. But so let's talk about what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this narcissist abuse cycle. When I'm talking about the narcissist abuse cycle, we're talking about, and I hope you guys have paper or pencil or something, and draw a circle on your paper and then break it down in 4 quadrants. Just put a big cross in the middle of it. So it's a circle and break it down in 4 quadrants. And at the top of the quadrant, at the very top, at the very, very, very top, put down idealization. On the 3 o'clock mark, put down devaluation. At the bottom, put discard. And on the 9 o'clock mark, put down Hoover. This is an infinite cycle that you will always go through when you are in a situationship or in a relationship with a narcissist. Thank you so much, Donna. I appreciate it. But if you are in a relationship or a situationship with a narcissist, these 4 things is what you're always going to go through with a narcissist. It doesn't matter how long you're in the situation. It doesn't matter how long you're in the relationship with them. You're going to go through idealization, devaluation, discard, and Hoover. Always. You're always going to go through that. So let's break this down and let's talk about it briefly on here. Love bombing. So in the idealization stage, this is where you are being love bombed. And in the love bombing stage, this is where you are introduced to the last supply. So most of us understand that narcissist mirrors you. But when they first are introduced, when you are first introduced to them or they're first introduced to you, They don't know how to take you at first. They don't know what to do with you at first. They don't know, they don't know anything. And so they take the best qualities of the last relationship or the relationship that they're in, and they use those qualities. And what it is, they use those qualities from the supply that they're with or they've been with. And what they do is they present it to you because they don't know what to do with you right now. They don't know anything about you right now. So they take the best qualities of the supply that they're with or the supply that they have been with, and that's what they present as a calling card. That's what they present to you until they get to know you. And what happens during that idealization stage, you may feel that what they'll do is they shower you with this I had to write notes, y'all. So they shower you with intense affection. They pay attention to you. They listen to every word that you have to say. You're talking to them. They're so interested in you. You are so interested in them. And you'll start saying, it feels like my soulmate. This is the person that listens to me. This is the person that makes me feel good about myself. This is that stage where you, like I said, you feel like this is your soulmate. This is that time when you're meeting people that you're supposed to be building rapport with a person. You're getting to know them. You're getting to know their boundaries and your boundaries, their boundaries. You're getting to know each other, what the limits are, what you can say and what you can't say. So you're learning about each other. Well, a narcissist is actually collecting intel on you. They're collecting intel. And what the narcissist does is they figure out what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are. And what they do is and they talk to you to find out, believe it or not, your love languages. Your love languages, for some of you, you have acts of service, you have touch, you have words of affirmation, you have quality time, and you have, and gift giving. So you have these 5 love languages. And what happens with the 5 love languages, your love languages is how you perceive love, right? But also on the other hand of how you perceive love, this is also where you lacked certain things growing up. Now, everyone that has been with a narcissist, those people that have been with a narcissist, it doesn't necessarily mean that you came from a bad family. You may not have come from a bad family. Believe it or not, that doesn't mean that you have been traumatized before. Some people will believe that, but that's not true. And then there are good families that, they lacked in certain places. Some of you, there are some families, in certain cultures, they just don't believe in a whole bunch of touchy-feely. They don't believe in a whole bunch of touch. And so you grew up and there's a possibility you crave touch and you just didn't get touched, a lot. You didn't get hugs or touches or anything like that. So one of your biggest love languages could be touch. Words of affirmation, something as simple as thank you, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I honor you. Anything. Words of affirmation, just to say thank you. You feel appreciated. You feel like you're worth something. You know what I mean? So some of you didn't get words of affirmation, and so that's what your love language is. You like words of affirmation or quality time. Maybe your parents. Were the type that had to work a lot. There are children that were latchkey kids, and there were kids that were, I'm sorry, my screen is messing up over here, but there are kids that were latchkey kids, or parents had to work, or you may come from a single parent home where the parent really wasn't there a lot of times, and so you really crave that quality time. When they had time, they were just cooking for you and doing things for you, but that quality time was not there with your parent, and so you crave that quality time. Or acts of service. You want somebody to help you with your homework. You wanted somebody to help you with your homework. You needed somebody to help you do things. And you grew up having to do for yourself. Now, some of you may have come from homes that didn't have a father in the home or didn't have a mother in the home. And so there are certain things that you are craving. You crave, mama was a narcissist, see? But what happens is some of you came from homes where the parent was missing or the parents was rejected. You don't know what it's like to grow up with a mother. You may not know what it's like to grow up with a father. And so, these are certain things but that's a part of your love language. And that narcissist, although they may not be able to articulate or they may not be able to say love language or anything, but they pay attention to you. They are collecting intel during that idealization stage. They're collecting intel, and we have a tendency to talk too much a lot of times. And then while you're talking, you're giving them information about yourself. You know, your love languages, the things that you like, the things that you don't like. Now, for you in your mind, you're thinking, I'm just letting them know and I'm setting boundaries. You're not actually setting boundaries. You're giving them a lot of information instead of letting them discover you. And, you know, for a lot of us, like, well, how do I determine the difference? You know, you kind of have to discern. You can't just jump into stuff, you know, all of a sudden. But a lot of that, but you have to remember, you're also dealing with a prayer. Hey, Sharima, thank you for being here. But you know, you don't, sometimes you don't know. Hey there, Hazel. Sometimes you don't know that you are with a predator. You don't know that they're predators. And so it's not like we're trained growing up in life understanding what predatory behavior is. We don't even know what serial killers, you know, are thinking, what is in their mind and how they hunt. And so a narcissist is a predator. And so, but they're collecting, you know, intel on you while you're giving information. They're collecting intel on you. And that is that love language. Your love language is also those areas that you lacked at one time, those things that you desire. And so what they do is they use that becomes your kryptonite. So when they find out that you don't like to be left alone, you have been rejected, or you don't like rejection, you don't like to be ignored. See, what they do is you lay that plan, you lay that play out there for them, and you give them the characters that they need to play, and they develop a character to play in your life. They develop the character to play in your life. You know, so they pick a role, and that's the role that they play. And you think that they're perfect, but what's happening is you're giving them enough intel to know what character they need to play in your life. And so when they play that character in your life, later on, as we move through these, you know, later on, you'll see that very thing, those things that were supposed to be something that you give to them, you know, that is a personal information I've given to you so you can protect my heart. They actually use that as your kryptonite. And what they do is they take your weaknesses and use your weaknesses as your kryptonite, and your strength is actually the narcissist kryptonite. And what they do is they have to flip it around to make it look like your strength is a weakness and your weaknesses are well, weaker. You know, they use that as like poison to you. And so in that love bombing stage, this is what is happening in that love bombing stage. They're collecting weaknesses. I mean, they're collecting the intel to know what your strengths and weaknesses are, because your strength become a narcissist kryptonite, and your strength actually can cause a narcissist injury. And one of the biggest goals during the idealization, that love bombing stage, is to gain control quickly and to get you totally dependent on them and to bring your guard down. If they can bring your guard down, you know, if they can bring your guards down, it's easier to manipulate you because they have won your trust. They have won your trust. And usually they won your trust by lying to you. You know, future faking and lying. You know, you don't even know you're being breadcrumbed, but we're gonna cycle through here. But in between that love bombing, as they're getting to know you, they also begin to mirror you. So as they begin to mirror you, you know, in therapy, it's a technique that we use, and we mirror. You know, we mirror. And in therapy, we mirror you to bring down your defenses, and mirror you to make you more comfortable. To make you more comfortable in the environment so you can be more trusting of the therapist that you're working with. So if we use that as a tool, not to hurt people, but to get people to open up to talk to us, then what do you think that narcissist will do? The narcissist will use very good attributes and things, you know, to pull on you and to mirror you, to bring your guards down in order to gain control. It's almost like being in a wartime, you know, to have to overthink the enemy that you're dealing with, and you don't even know that this is an enemy. You know, once again, no, don't listen to your heart. Listen to your intuition. You know, don't listen to your heart, because if you listen to your heart, you're going to get caught up in a narcissist. You listen to your intuition. I always say listen to your shanana, but listen to your intuition. Now, the second phase is devaluation. But what happens is in between that phase, you know, if you put a circle on your paper and just break it down in 4 quadrants. Remember, you got idealization, you have devaluation, then you have discard, then you have hoover. But if you put arrows pointing down to the next phase, next stage as you're going, right? That stage as you're going down to the discard, you're working down to that discard, they have already started devaluing you in the midst of love bombing you. And you don't even realize, hey, Cluster B, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. That's okay. That's okay. Thank you so much. I can focus. Danielle, Sharima showed up. and you're here so I can focus. I don't have to worry about, folks on here, because we have some roaches coming out, and I was just waiting for y'all. I said, I don't know if it was late, and I know I was late, so I apologize. That was really my fault because I came on late. I was having some issues with my lighting and my plugs. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I know it's late. Thank you so much for being here, y'all. But at the same time, you're already love you back. You're all also, if you point that arrow, they're already devaluing you, because one thing that a narcissist needs to know is how high is your pain tolerance. They need to know whether, because believe it or not, sometimes it's not you discards. It's like military people going in to fight something, and then they pull you back. They pull you back. Okay, go back, go back, go back, go back, go back. Abort mission, abort mission, abort mission. Narcissists do the same thing. If they come in and you're causing too many narcissistic injuries, they pull back. If they come in and you're too easy, or you have some that narcissist with a narcissist, and sometimes they pull back. They pull back. Or a narcissist with someone that may be like borderline, not all the time, because they'll drive a borderline crazy, but not all the time. But sometimes they abort the mission because you're not interesting enough. And when I say interesting enough, you're not easy to control, or, you're too boring for them. But they're already devaluing you already, but they need to see how much pain can you tolerate, because you have some that are malignant. They need to know how much pain can you tolerate. And once you start showing they do little things or say little things, and it's almost like the frog in the boiling water theory. And what ends up happening is the water gets turned up, and the frog doesn't even realize that they are boiling to death. And so what they do is they turn it up, they turn it up slowly, turn it up slowly, turn it up slowly, just to see how much pain you can tolerate. And the higher your pain threshold, because some people have come out of situationships like this before, and your pain threshold is very high. So they know you are considered good supply, because they can get away a lot with you. They can do a lot, and you're not going to cause a whole bunch of injuries to them. You are more tolerable for them and their nonsense. And so you're already being devalued. But once you get to that point of devaluation, once you get there, they know that you are already hooked. And once you are hooked, that's when their behavior starts to change. They're not trying so hard to win you over. They're not trying so hard to be with you anymore, because they have already determined you're not getting ready to go nowhere. They're not trying so hard. And so now they're introducing more controlling behaviors. They introduce that they start criticizing you, and then they excuse it by saying it's constructive criticism. You just too soft. You remember what you said. You've been hurt before. This is when that gaslighting is happening. It's when that verbal abuse is happening. That this is when they start being very jealous, when you're paying someone else attention. And you may not be paying anybody attention. You may just be at work paying attention to your boss, but that's entirely too much attention. Now, another thing is that you become confused. And so you start becoming confused because of the fact that you don't understand why did they change. And so what you start doing is you try to regain their initial approval. Now you're running behind them to get them to love you again. You're running behind them to see, what have I done wrong? What is going on? What I don't understand. What have I done? You're trying to fix it. You're trying to fix it. You're trying to fix it. What have I done wrong? Why are they treating me this way? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? There may not be anything wrong with you. You may be with a predator, but what's going on with me? Let me try to fix it. I don't understand why this person has changed. You're looking at this person who has changed. In some situations, people withdraw because they feel abused, or they feel, but the biggest thing is that a lot of times you look at yourself and like, why did they change? They didn't change for the better. They changed for the worse. And you're trying to figure out, what have I done to make you treat me like this? What have I done for you to act this way? When a person starts treating you a certain type of way, and it's a negative way or a hurtful way that they're treating you, you're not to blame. You can't justify their behavior. I don't care how another person acts or talks. That's not a justification for you to mistreat them. So you can't justify their behavior. And so a lot of times what happens is the victims begin to justify their behaviors. Maybe I need to do, and then they make you feel that way. Like you're supposed to be fixing this, and it's your fault that I changed, and you're not who I thought you they're actually, if you think about it, they're gaslighting you. And the things that they're saying to you is the things that are happening, the things that you should be thinking about them, right? And so when they get to the discard point, they're already starting to discard you. Now, some people think discard means that they leave you. For some, in some situations, they do. In some situations, they will discard you and go to another supply. And usually, if they discard you and leave, it's because of the fact that there was already another supply being groomed at the same time. They can't give all the energy to you and to them, because remember, a narcissist is a energy drainer, is an emotional vampire, and they drain energy. And so to have to cycle through and try to pull people in, it requires a lot of energy for them to put energy into them, to put fuel into them. And they're the ones that need fuel. So if they're putting a lot of fuel into you, they're putting a lot of energy into you. You got to know they got to refill somewhere. And if they've got to refill somewhere, they're refilling from a fueling station, meaning another source of supply, another person. They're just not putting into you and not pulling from somewhere else because they can't maintain that. That's too much. You're getting too much attention, and now you owe them, because how dare you want this much attention? But for the sake of pulling you in, I'll give it to you, but I need that attention from somebody. And so if they've discarded you and they actually leave, that's because they already had something in the works somewhere else, or they already had another supply, maybe shelved somewhere. So they've already, they've already been working on different people, and a lot of them are promiscuous. And so for some people, yes, they will discard and leave you, and they're with someone else, and they may tell you, I need a break, you're too much, whatever. And then I'm just by myself, I'm not doing anything. No, they're probably with another person, And then there are some that actually discard you, and they're still in the same house with you. You have been discarded, and so the reason why they discard is that you're no longer useful. You have become boring to them. You're too easy. You have lost your brand new leather smell. You have started challenging their authority. You have started challenging them. You have started causing narcissistic injury. Usually what happens is, they end the relationship or they emotionally withdraw from you. And one of the biggest things now, they begin to use your weaknesses because you are out of compliance. You are out of compliance. You are not in my control. And so what happens is that you, as the victim, you begin to feel rejected. All those old emotions that you may have had before, rejected, abandoned, you starting to struggle to make sense of what is happening. What happened? I don't understand. You get blamed. The victim is blamed and told that you need to fix it. You need to make sure that you go to therapy. You're the problem. You have some problems. You need to go to therapy to fix yourself. You need to fix this relationship. And most people that I see in therapy, they come to me, and true enough, everybody needs work. Everybody needs self-work, but a lot of times they come, and what ends up happening is they tell me that I need to go to therapy to work on myself so that I can fix this relationship and we can make this relationship work, or I want this relationship to work, so I'm coming to therapy. Well, you're coming to therapy for the wrong reason, because no matter what you do when you go to therapy, you're not going to be able to fix it. You're not going to be able to fix the relationship. It takes two people to fix a relationship. In this situation, a situationship, and if you're with a narcissist, you're not going to fix the relationship anyway. It's not workable. Now, some of you say, but I had so much fun. Yeah, a narcissist is gonna narc. A narc does what narc do. They narc. They're narky and they narc, right? That's what they do. This cycle, it goes on all the time. But you do have good times with them. You do have good moments with them where they're idealizing you. They get around you and they're bragging about you and they're making you feel good. You're in the idealization stage. But when they are out there on the prowl, on the hunt, or where something is going on, you'll notice that you have a lot of problems. It's like you're irrelevant, you're unimportant. And sometimes you don't even see them, when they're doing what they're doing, but you can feel it. If another supply has hurt them or made them angry, they take it out on you. Or if a past supply that they have been with has hurt them or caused a narcissist injury, you're the one that's going to get the, hey, Wendy, you're the one that's going to get the short end of the stick. So it's not, you have to think, when you are in one of these cycles, every day may not be a bad day. You may have some wonderful times, great vacations and travel and having fun, and they're funny and they got a great sense of humor and you love going out to eat. So just like some people say, when it's good, it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad. But it never changes. And all this time you are being traumatized. You're in this cycle and you're being traumatized. You're being traumatized. But in the discard, you get to get blamed. You're the reason why this relationship is not working. You have some problems. No matter what it is that you try to do, it just doesn't work. They always move the goalpost. They're always moving the standards. The ceiling always gets higher. So it doesn't matter what it is that you do. It seems like it never gets better. You're trying everything that you possibly can to make this work. Why are you working so hard to try to make something work that's not going to work? You see what I mean? So now hoovering. So now the last stage in this is the hoovering. Now they may have left you, or you may have left them or discarded them, either or. The hoovering, named after the Hoover vacuum cleaner, is when they try to suck you back into the cycle. Either the new supply didn't work out, the new supply, it wasn't good enough, it just didn't work, they go back to home base. Or the new supply has caused a narcissistic injury. Now the new supply is on timeout. The new supply now has been discarded, so they come back to you. And what they do is they try to suck you back into the cycle because you've gotten out of the cycle, so you've broken the cycle. But the problem is you're getting sucked back in the cycle. So when you're getting sucked back in the cycle, now all of a sudden they future fate. They apologize. They cry. They got crocodile tears. You've never seen them cry before. You've never seen her cry before. And now she's crying. Everything that you've complained about and they didn't do, now all of a sudden they're doing it. So your mindset now you're in this cognitive dissonance. I know the truth. I know the facts. I know what I'm dealing with. And what happens is, but maybe it's not, maybe he or she is not a narcissist. Maybe they just have some toxic behaviors. Maybe, but I'm seeing them do all these things like they used to do. They went back to when we first met. Remember, when they go back to when you first met, it's very short-lived. They don't have the energy they had because you were a new toy at the time. But they go back and they give you little breadcrumbs, and gifts. And, a lot of you get gifts and flowers, and they're trying to make a show. And let's see, they play victim to elicit sympathy from people around them. They pull in flying monkeys, to talk to people, to get the people for them to talk to you. And that he made a mistake, and the mama's calling you now. The sister and the auntie is calling you now. Everybody's talking to you, trying to help this narcissist. They don't even realize they're helping this narcissist to pull you back into this dysfunctional cycle, because all of them been in the cycle all along. But they're the victims now. I know I messed up, but they didn't even give me, she won't even give me a chance. He won't even give me a chance. Everybody messes up from time to time. I'm not a perfect person. Anything you can think of, that's what they're going to say. And because of the fact that you as a victim, you are always looking for love and validation that you receive during that idealization, or because of the fact that you have specific type of love language, what happens is you end up giving in, and guess what happens? The cycle starts all over again. Because in your heart, I know that this is short-lived because I've got experience with this person. I've been through this with this person. And what ends up happening is you fall back in that cycle. The idealization stage is very short-lived. Hey, masculine 773, how are you? And then it's short-lived, and then they just cycle right back through. And the crazy thing about it is that you knew that you already knew. And the problem is it felt so good that you didn't want to let it go, but you cycle through it again, and here you are again. The only way to break that cycle is to get out of the cycle. And that's the hardest thing, because guess what? Now you are trauma bonded. You are trauma bonded. Yeah, you are trauma bonded. And it takes a lot, because even people that are addicted to drugs and alcohol, have to break the cycle. They have to get clean somehow or another. They have to get clean somehow or another. And so the cycle has to be broken. Hopefully this helps somebody tonight. I know I was late coming on, and I know I'm late now. I just wanted to give that information. And one of the biggest things, sometimes I go back and I repeat and I retrain. One of the biggest things that I have learned in the military is repetitious training. Repetitious training helps you to recognize and respond instead of react. You can't react in situations like this. You have to respond, but you have to understand what you're responding to. And on top of that, your eyes are open so you know how much to talk and how much not to talk. And remember, when you're dealing with your love languages, this is how you perceive love, but your love languages is also where you lack, you know. So it's okay to be balanced and have all the love languages and enjoy all the love languages. But a lot of times when you're strong, if you take the love language test, it'll let you know like the first two is usually your dominant love languages. But the sad part about it is that everything that you're learning, a narcissist will take that. They will take that and they will use it against you. Everything good is bad and everything bad becomes good. You see what I mean? Things that I teach you is things that we also implement when we're in therapy. One of the biggest things we do is we mirror all the time. And that's just to make you comfortable. It doesn't make any sense if I come in with big giant vocabulary and you're a teenager and you're, what's up, dude, and bruh, and bruh. If I'm talking in big giant words and stuff and you don't understand what I'm saying, you're not gonna find any interest in anything that I have to say. You won't get anything. So what you have to do is you have to mirror the other person. You mirror the other person's language. If you're around a person, for a long time, if you're around a person for a while, you'll pick up on their language as well. You'll pick up on the language as well. My sister, my big sister, what she say, Danielle? Oh, foot. Or what else does she say? Foot. And what else she say? You know what? And guess what all of us sisters say? You know what? Foot. We all say it. You're around somebody long enough, you'll pick up on their language. You're mirroring them because you're connecting with them. And a narcissist does the same thing, but you have to understand that a narcissist does not have emotional empathy. They don't feel what you feel. They can't put their friend, hey, DeChaney, how are you doing? Long time no see. Hopefully one day you come down here and visit us. Good to see you. But they can't put their feet into your shoes and feel the pain that you feel. Hey, Dawn, long time no see. But they can't put their feet into your shoes to feel the pain that you're feeling. And when I say, I don't mean the physical pain. That's just like, God forbid, any of you who have lost your parents or lost your, someone a loved one, for us to be able to put our feet in your shoes to think, oh my gosh, watching you and how you're responding, and how you're crying and how you're feeling, we look at that like, man, I wonder how it's going to feel. I can only imagine if it's hurting like that, and I can only imagine, now I need to make sure I speak to them or love, so that's, thank you. But to put your feet into somebody's shoes and to be able to empathize with their pain. So you don't say the wrong things, you know what I mean? But a narcissist can't and won't do that because number one, that is entirely too much energy to put towards you. They have cognitive empathy. They understand. And when I say they don't understand in a psychological or scientific term, unless they're that intelligent, and some of them are, but a lot of them understand cognitive empathy. Cognitive empathy, knowing that I know what to do in order to get you to react. Not respond. I know what to do and I know what to say to get you to react. How do you think they love bombed you into the situation? So they know the cognitive empathy. They know how to push buttons to make you react. But emotional empathy, that's something that they lack, And a lot of them, it's not a lot of them. Narcissists are all about themselves. All about themselves. Even in a relationship, even with their children, it's all about them. And if the children get too much attention, a lot of times they go around with children because the children get them attention. But the children are even a pawn in the game. They don't care about their kids. They think about it. If they don't have emotional empathy, they go to a funeral, they're watching to see how you react and how you respond. And so they're like androids. They're like, oh, inject tears here. Oh, and then if you've ever been around one, or now that you are aware of how they think and how they function, now it's like they're an android. Like they're an android, like Data off of Star Trek. And they're trying to process the emotions. They're trying to process what to inject here. What do I inject here? How do I do this? What emotion goes here? So they watch the people around them and they do what they see. So they just mimic and copy people. But is it genuine? Absolutely not. It's not genuine. So listen, I'm not going to do any questions tonight because I came on so late, and I know Danielle has to get up and she has to go to work. And so because I came on late tonight, I just wanted to put that information out there. Share the video. Some of you guys are wanting to give this information to family. You can't shove information down their throat because a lot of them are not ready to receive. A lot of them are not ready to receive. A lot of them are not ready to accept, but when you share, you'll be surprised that a lot of times the people that you're wanting to get information to, they're actually listening to the videos without telling you. And so you don't have to say anything to your family or friends. Share the video, and somebody that needs to hear it or see it in your family may get the video and watch it. They may not tell you that they watched it, but exactly. You know what, masculine? That is a perfect analogy. Over here on Instagram, now I'm going to have to call you Mr. Masculine. Mr. Masculine, 773. He said narcissists are like AI. That is an excellent description. Excellent description. A narcissist is like a living android or living AI. A living AI. That is exactly what a narcissist is, AI. And I use ChatGPT, and I call mine, his name is Sir Jacob. So I say, hey, Sir Jacob. He's like, hello, Dr. Bryant. I said, I have a question for you. He said, go ahead. I can help you with anything. And so I'm asking questions, having conversations. He's pulling information from sources on the internet. So he's giving me a bunch of information. Well, let me ask you a question. And he says, go ahead. And then as we're talking at the very end, as if I'm talking to a person, I'm like, thank you. He says, anytime you want to ask me a question, I'll be right here for you. But you see how genuine and how empathetic that sounds? And it's AI, but it sounds so genuine. So a narcissist is that way too. And they blend. I did a conference a few years ago. It was hidden in plain sight. Because 9 times out of 10, you're amongst narcissists and don't even realize it. If you think that you have not ran into a artificial intelligence, absolutely. If you think you have not ran into a narcissist, you have. They probably made you laugh. That they were great conversationalists. They were great people. They were just wonderful. But what you didn't realize is that you were feeding into the fire. Now, the thing is how do I avoid it? How do I not? I don't ever want to. For some, you're going to live around narcissists all the time. Doesn't mean you have to date them. Doesn't mean you have to get into a relationship with them. Some of them are just there. I wouldn't mind paying when I was going through my divorce, I wouldn't mind paying a narcissist lawyer to go after the narcissist. That would have been great because it's narcissist against narcissist. I'm paying you for a service. I ain't trying to have no relationship with you. I'm paying you for a service, and that's it. And they're going to get that service done. And especially that narcissist is arrogant in the courtroom, and anything that they say to try to down a narcissist lawyer, you ain't got to do nothing but sit back and let this lawyer tear that narcissist out the frame. So you see what I mean? So you don't have to concern yourself. Just don't get in a relationship with one. And the way you don't get into a relationship with one is the fact that you have to be aware of your in the military, we call it situational awareness. Situational awareness. Alex said, I went to school with many narcissists, great lawyers. See? Gonna get the job done. But that does not mean you have to marry one or date them. You know what I mean? So listen, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys. I came on late tonight, and I apologize for coming on late. I was having some issues with one of my plugs. I was wondering why my lighting wasn't working. You got the light come on and everything, but the plugs don't work. So I don't know if I broke it by accident. I don't know what happened. So I was having some issues with my lighting, so I was a little late coming on. It took me like 30 minutes to get everything, so I came on at 9. But I honestly appreciate each and every one of you. You guys make sure you subscribe, share, because you never know who you're going to share this with. And thank you so much. I will be back. I hope you all have a beautiful evening, and I hope you sleep well. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful and masculine. Thank you so much. That was a perfect analogy. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to credit you with that. I'm going to cite you. Masculine, a gentleman by the name of Masculine. We don't know who his name is, but a gentleman by the name of Masculine gave a perfect analogy of narcissist is just like AI. And the more they study you, it's almost like the smarter that they get. But the more AI, the more you talk to AI, the more they get to know your algorithm. And they pick up on your algorithm where they start talking to you. And you think you're actually talking to a real person. But thank you guys so much for being here tonight. And I hope each and every one of you. Demond, thank you so much, sir. Mr. Walker, I appreciate you. Thank you for that. That was a perfect analogy. And I'm going to make sure I always credit you for that. Thank you so much. And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Good night. And thank you, Sharima, Danielle, Miss Karen. I appreciate you because I was sitting here for a little while having a block and they were coming in. They were coming in like little roaches. And so I appreciate you guys. And I know it's late and I don't want to hold you up. I want to respect your time. So thank you guys. And I hope you all have a beautiful evening. Good night, everybody. Good night. Good night, YouTube.